The attack plane in Battlefield 1 is one of the funnest vehicles that you can use, and if you are new to the franchise, it is something that you are really going to enjoy and something that separates Battlefield and Battlefield 1 from other games. Now the purpose of this video is to give an overview of the attack plane itself and then go through my favourite loadout, the ground support attack plane. Now this one is designed to take out infantry mainly, however it's also fairly effective against other air targets and it can do some damage to tanks and ground vehicles. For me it's the best all-rounder since the beta. As you see in the background, this thing is a complete machine when it comes to infantry. Now there are several different variations of the attack plane in Battlefield 1 which are linked to the different factions. Now the one you can see me flying in the background at the start of this video is the Rumpler CI. Now this one was a two-seater reconnaissance biplane and entered the First World War in 1915. It was operated by the German Luftstreitkräfte, apologies for the pronunciation, for the duration of the war and is used by the Ottoman Empire in the Battlefield 1 multiplayer. Another attack plane that is used in the game is the Halberstadt CL.2. This was a two-seater attack plane flown by the German Luftstreitkräfte again in World War I, and when introduced in 1917 it proved itself to be a highly capable aircraft. It was fairly manoeuvrable and in addition to that it could climb quite well. This meant that obviously it was more effective against other planes at the time. Remember, this was a time when planes were being developed very quickly, as during wartime development of machines and weaponry tends to speed up quite dramatically. Now something interesting about this variation of the plane is during November 1917 in the Battle of Cambrai, the first CL-2 demonstrated its effectiveness as a ground attack aircraft and contributed significantly to the Germans' counterattack. From this, the plane was then given more of an opportunity to be a close support plane, and of course the loadout that I'm looking at today links right into that. The plane that you will see the British faction using in Battlefield 1 is the Bristol F-2B. Now this was a biplane fighter used during the First World War. It had robust construction and a powerful engine, which meant that it was fairly good in the air and could keep up with most of the single-seat fighters. The final plane in Battlefield 1 that is used by the US faction is the Samson II. Now this was a fairly popular aircraft for the French, and in fact by the end of the First World War a third of the French reconnaissance planes were Samsons IIs. In Battlefield 1 we are seeing a variation of this used by the US. It's known as the AEF-2A2. This is the attack plane you'll spawn in if you pick to be on the US side. Now as interesting as this all is, I haven't actually been able to work out if there's any differences between the different attack planes and the different factions. So far the main thing for me is picking the correct package to help you be as effective as possible on the battlefield. Now let's focus on the ground support attack plane. This thing is equipped with a small caliber automatic cannon. You'll see this in the gameplay in the background. It's very effective at taking out groups of enemies, and also if you can lead the shots correctly you're going to be good against other planes in the air. You're also given fragmentation bombs. These can be released from the base of your aircraft. You click F obviously to change weapon, it'll put you into that view and then you fire just as you would a JDAM in Battlefield 4. These are super effective against infantry and they're really good if you can get them inside a building or against the side of a tank just to stop them rolling, and you can take out multiple enemies as you see many times in the background. Now a couple of tips and tricks for using this loadout. Let's start with the attack plane itself. I suggest that you definitely go into the settings and change your aircraft field of view. You can see that I've done this in the background. We've got two different video clips to show you the difference. One is where my field of view is stock, and you can notice how I can't see much around the plane. This is not very desirable because if you're in a dogfight you can't see exactly what's happening around you. If you change your field of view to be slightly larger, you're going to be able to see planes in the distance, planes that might be just flying away from you a little bit off the screen. You can chase them down in third person way more effectively. It is definitely worth changing this in order to improve your game. Another tip is to always run with a gunner. You'll notice in some of these clips that I don't, and then if I was being chased by a fighter I'd be forced to either jump into the rear seat and try and take him out or do some maneuvers to get myself in a better position. You're very vulnerable with these planes against a fighter because the fighters can turn much tighter than you can. Also, you'll see a couple of clips where I'm coming up against a bomber. Make sure that you don't try and take a bomber out all on your own. The guns on the back have been heavily buffed and they are very effective. Each bullet will do roughly 5 damage to your aircraft. They're going to damage your wings, they're going to damage your tail, and they're going to make your plane be less maneuverable and unable to fight them because of the pure damage that those things can do. So don't get near them. If possible, try and flank them or even get in front of them, as you see in the Sinai Desert clip where I've got my gunner on the back doing most of the damage. Another option on this plane is the flare spotting system. As you fly over a group of enemies or where you think a group of enemies might be, you tap 3 on your keyboard and that will release a set of flares. Now this is great, not only because it will spot enemies for your team, but it will also spot enemies for you. You notice a couple of times I'll drop flares, go into first person and then look behind me and spot what I've actually spotted, and then go back on my second run and take them out with my primary weapon. Very, very effective this, and it's great for making sure that you're taking down those troublesome snipers on hills that you couldn't really see because they're hidden, and it also works well if the dynamic weather has decided to give you fog, which I'm not a massive fan of, but this spotting system at least helps you out with that. Something else I'd like to talk about today is being effective for your squad. Often you'll see in some of my gameplay, I'm flying the attack plane and I have a squad mate spawn on me and then jump straight out. Now this is a very, very effective tactic, especially on a game such as Operations or even Conquest, where I'm flying along and my squad mates are using the plane as a spawn beacon essentially, and then they can bail out and get onto a flag. The rest of the spawn mates can spawn on them, and you often find yourself in a great position behind a load of enemies. This works fantastically on Operations, especially on Foul Fortress. You can get your squad mates behind the enemy lines and then do whatever they want to do. They can take them out without them looking at them. It's a brilliant, brilliant tactic. I suggest you try it out. Hopefully you found this little video useful. If you did, please leave a like down below and let me know what you think should be improved with the attack planes in Battlefield 1. Thanks again for watching guys, and I'll catch you in the next episode.